sales orders that each person has done. If I click rid of this, and look at that. Now we can see each one per person. I also can make some filters, my default or favorites, by reopening the search up here at the top. And as you can tell, we can save our current search as a favorite as well. Doing so reveals some other options if you do that as well, which allows me to choose whether or not to make this my default filter. Maybe it's the one I want to see all the time, or shared as well to share it with others. I can even give this favorite filter a new custom title. So in my case, let's assume that I want to just save whatever I have right now as shared. Then we also got to give this a name, quotations by person. Let me hit save. Just like that, we have all of that. You will see that your favorite filter is just saved and shared, easily accessible inside of the search filter menu. And it's underneath its own little section right there. And that's very cool. But we're going to go ahead and remove it because we don't want to mess with people. We're making these things as we go. I'm going to actually reopen the filter menu once again over here. I can also click on add custom filters as well if I would like to. And that's in the bottom left corner over here. Doing so, perhaps I'd like to see by abandoned carts, maybe by a specific date or anything else for that matter. Fortunately, Odoo provides a ton of options to choose from inside of here. But let's say that we only have our group by sales feature, salesperson over here filter present once again. So let's go grouping by salesperson once again. From here, we can also view our data and records in different ways. The default is list view, which you can see right there. But we also have the option for Kanban view, which I'm going to click right now. And this actually makes it look a little bit more clear. I like the Kanban view a lot because we can see different columns organized by our salespeople since we have the salesperson filter on. This is particularly cool because we can actually drag and drop sales orders inside of this view. For example, let's say that I would like Mark Demo, my salesperson, to take over one of Mitchell admins. We can just raw Mitchell immediately like that and drop it under. And we're done, just like that. And if I would like to, we can do something else. Well, let's open that one up. And if we select on the other info tab over here, look at that. Mark is right there as a salesperson for this one. Just in case you didn't see that right there, we're going back over to our quotations, stealing another one over there. And now it doesn't say Mitchell, it says Mark. But let's go back over to our quotations because I want to show you some other stuff. So we also have the option for a calendar view over here, which is basically Odoo is going to show you all the sales orders that were created on various dates. We can access the various records from here as well simply by clicking on an actual sales order if we wanted to. In our case, we'd have to go pretty far back, I think, which is fine. It happens. We also have a pivot table view over here. Now, Odoo shows us a pivot chart of our data. You can even open this measures drop-down option over here to change and add different measure types as well if needed. We can just basically just add these as you go. Just make it bigger. Bigger is better. Then finally, we have another option, which is the graph view. And when we select it, we can also change the graph types here too by clicking on the icons, such as a line chart, or my favorite, which happens to be a pie chart over here. In the line chart, you can even actually change the way that certain things are displayed. You can have it descending, ascending, and other options like that. We can also even insert this chart into an Odoo spreadsheet by clicking on the Insert in Spreadsheet button right there. And the very last one we have is Activity View over here. When we click on the activity clock icon, Odoo shows us our scheduled activities on different documents. I can see the column headers themselves are the different activity types, email, call, and everything. And the row headers themselves happen to also be the sales order numbers. The red activity blocks are overdue, and I'm seeing a lot of red. And the green ones are due in the future. Each block has the activity due date on it. I can view and edit the information by clicking on an activity. For example, let's click on a random one like this one. Inside of here, you'll notice that I can see what the activity is and even schedule additional activities in case I need more red in my life. We do that by just clicking on schedule an activity, filling out this pop-up over here. And it's super convenient, as you can tell. But right now, we're actually going to select cancel. Don't need to do that right now. So after you do that, I think it's time for us to go back over to our Kanban view over here and open up a random one of these sales orders. Now, something I want to point out here is that I have some fields in the top portion of this form, which are in bold. Namely, we have invoice address and delivery address fields. Now, that means that these fields must be filled in or you won't be able to save the document. So let's see what happens if I try to delete this delivery address one that we have right there. And then let's assume I try to go back to the quotations page and let Odoo autosave. Oh, look at that. It doesn't let me. Odoo is saying I'm unable to save, and I have this warning that popped up and even a red marker on that area. It's telling me that I need to fix this. That's why I need to make sure the mandatory fields are filled in before moving on. So let's add the same customer back over to the delivery address again. Perfect. Right there. And it should be noted, and now I can actually save. Watch. See, we're good. It should be noted that every document in Odoo has an autosave feature, but there's also a save manually button that you just saw me use up at the top. You can use them whenever things change. In all of our documents, we also have some smart buttons at the top of the page, as you can see right here. The sales order itself, for instance, has some smart buttons related to the planning application. Different types of documents have different types of smart buttons. It just depends on what the other apps are installed and what records are meant to be linked together. For example, on the customer's contact page, which we can access by clicking directly on the name that we have right here. Pretty neat right there. Nice little Jose Ignacio shortcut. I have more smart buttons available up at the top, quite a lot of them. Each of these are records in my database that are related to this customer. So for example, I could see all of their sales, opportunities. If I'm interested actually by clicking the sales smart button right there, I can see Addict sales right there as a full-on list related to them. Or I can use what we call, I've been saying this a lot, breadcrumbs in the top left here, which I've mentioned previously because they allow me to go back to previous pages. For example, I could return back to the customer form just by selecting the name again, right there. And we're back over here. Breadcrumbs keep a record of all the steps that we've taken through the application. You're going to see me say things like Wonder Bread, Pumpernickel. This is what it means. For instance, I can actually see that I started inside of quotations, made myself go into the sales order, and then from the sales order, we went into Addict's contact card over here. And that's how this all works. I can always see every single movement from the breadcrumbs, so be sure to keep that in mind as you navigate through Odoo. They're super useful. Okay, right now let's go back to the sales order via the breadcrumbs, which is Wonder Bread. So we're going to select sales order right there. I want to point out one more thing before we part ways. On each page, you'll see this section, which is referred to over here as the chatter. The chatter is a history of actions and messages related to the record. Be sure to check out our other tutorials, which are going to give you a whole lot more information on that, as it often comes in handy for a number of different reasons. Alrighty, if you stay this full time with me, I love you and appreciate you, because this concludes our brief overview of how to properly cruise through Odoo. You're doing great. And now that you know the ins and outs of how to navigate through Odoo's super awesome and intuitive interface, I think it's time for us to part ways, because that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. My name is Jose Ignacio, and we'll be seeing each other more in the future. Remember to check out our documentation and more videos.